Welcome to this week's episode of Esports Wrap. I'm your host, Michael Amargon, for another fun-filled and educational episode, talking about video games and esports and all the like in between. So, this week it's just me by myself. I don't have any guests, no co-hosts, but we are going to be talking about a fairly interesting topic, at least one that's interesting to me, especially given the games that's been coming out recently. And that's the topic of the open world concept versus the closed world sandbox concept. And as always, guys, if you're coming inside here, don't hesitate to click follow, to click like, to subscribe, whatever it is that you do. If you're on YouTube, click that little bell next to subscribe as well to make sure that you get any updates for as we go live or any of the uploads that we do. Now, that being said, let's actually get into what the differences are between open world concept games and closed world concept games. And this is actually a fairly important one, at least in my mind. And the part about it is, well, how should we say this? Closed world is what we've known for generations. This is where games started. Granted, now, when people started making games, it wasn't really, they didn't consider it as a closed world concept. They considered it as a means for people to just play games. And the whole entire closed world concept came in only once open world started to become a talk. And open world, on the other hand, is when you are pretty much free to move around and explore the world in more than just, say, stages. Let's use stages as an example. Let's use Soul Calibur 6. Let's go, further back. Even Super Smash Bros. Those are stages. Those are sets that you play the game in. There's nothing really more than this. Even if you go back to things like James Bond, the original James Bond games, even though you're moving around in this area, it's still just that area. So if, let's say, you start off with a game and you are taking out some spies that are on a ship. I'm thinking about a certain PS2 game. I'm not going to name it right now though. But essentially you are to take out those persons on the ship. Your world does not move past that ship. That's it. Like, that is your closed world environment. Sure, you can go up and down the ship. You can do stuff on the ship. You can go in. You start off in the water, so on and so on. But you don't end up on land. You don't end up at another country. You don't end up on another ship. It's stationary to just that. Open world takes it from that and allows you to move across a county, into a different state, a different country, on a plane, on a boat. You can actually travel. Things like that is what makes open world. And for those that are fairly new to games and whatnot, if you've heard of games like Red Dead Redemption 2, which is one of the more recent games, or even Breath of the Wild, which is Zelda Breath of the Wild, is a game on Nintendo Switch. Those are open world concept games. And those are important for the simple fact that these allow you to move the story at your own pace. Essentially, you can go about crafting, you can go about doing your own thing, you can travel pretty much anywhere. You don't have a set storyline that you must follow. Let's use Kirby as an example. Even the most recent Kirby game that came out, you still have to go in a very linear map kind of way to actually move through the story. And I think that one's Kirby All-Stars, if I remember correctly. But you can't jump ahead to say, I want to go to this particular fight first, like you can with Zelda, or you can with Red Dead. Though, I will admit, Red Dead and Zelda, certain things are only unlockable after certain things. But that doesn't stop you from actually venturing there, unlocking it on your map, and exploring, crafting, hunting things, and doing things again at your own pace. Now, some people have an issue as to when open world concepts really came about. And to a degree, it does become a little confusing, simply because the text-based games like Ultima Online and Colossus Cave Adventure and so on and so forth, they actually started off with you being able to explore an entire world in a text-based game. Very similar to tabletop games, except it allowed you to actually, like, say you want to go left, then right. You wanted to open up a chest, get a sword from the chest, or leave the sword and move on, so on and so forth. And granted, when I played those games, I did get bored after about 3 hours of just trying to remember and look back at chat to make sure I'm moving correctly, so I'm not ending up in some swamp somewhere or this, that, and the next. And I mean, it had its charm, don't get me wrong. Text-based MMOs have its charm, but it just doesn't compare to me anymore, like in today's day and age. I would much rather instead stick with a tabletop game with someone being the game master or dungeon master, whatever you want to call them, and them dictating how we actually move about this world, instead of having to scroll back, scroll. Okay, so I started off here, this is the city that I'm in. Okay, I gotta remember this. I already went that way. I need to turn around, so on and so forth. But I personally don't consider those open world games. I consider those in its own genre, because that's essentially what it is. It's its own kind of genre. And so when you actually get to graphical games that are open world, even that isn't clear cut, which is unfortunate. For example, we have Game Informer saying that Hydaelyn and Legend of Zelda from 1986 were among the first open world games, along with Ultima, which I mentioned being text. IGN apparently traced the roots of open world game design to Legend of Zelda, which it argued that the first really good game based on exploration, which it was, and it still is even up to today. It's just Breath of the Wild has taken it one step further. And sure, you can run up to the edge of the map inside these games and actually like glitch through and stuff like that if you know how to do it. But for the most part, these games don't seem to have an end, and that's the whole point of it. You can travel and travel and travel and travel and travel, and it'll take you a long, long time before you hit some mountain or some endless vast of water that stop you from really moving forward. Now, sure, there are places that you can maybe jump through and whatnot, and then you'll get blocked by some unforeseeable force. Like, I'm thinking World of Warcraft right now. But they are still there, and for the most part, these are... you can travel a long time, and that's the point, like I'm saying. And my voice cracked just there. That's really that cool. But apparently, you know, Mercenary's been cited as the first open world 3D action adventure game. There's ones like Turbo Espirit, Alternative Reality, The City, Wasteland, Terminator, Adventures of Robin Hood, Hunter. The first, some people considers Super Mario 64, which was made in 1996, based on it being the 3D open-end free roaming world, which had been rarely seen in 3D games before then. And 1UP actually considers Sega's Shenmue, which is from 1999, as to be the originator of the open city subgenre. Touted as a full reactive eyes entertainment game, giving players the freedom to explore an expansive sandbox city with its own night and day cycles. That's another thing about it. Open world changed a lot of stuff because of how things were interactive. And in today's day and age, this means that NPCs are a lot more responsive. They seem to react based on what you're doing. And sure, there are closed versions of games that do this as well, but open world, the concept behind it is that things that you do have consequences as well. It's not just, hey, I can move around. You have night and day cycles, you have storms, you have NPCs that if you mess with someone's cousin in a different like state or town or whatever, that can have repercussions somewhere else inside your story, where someone will probably come after you because you killed someone's cousin or their spouse or their kid, or you ran over their dog, you kicked their dog. Early 2000 meme, late 1990. Anyway, the point that I'm getting at is that games on a whole have changed a lot. And with that, other things have been coming about. And that's why people have been raving about games like Red Dead Redemption, which is based in the Old West, coming to industrial era of the United States. You can quite literally travel all across a map, even though, admittedly, it does have its bounds. So it's not as open world as some might like it to be. But the thing about it is, there's no fast travel in this game, unlike games like Spider-Man that came out recently as well. Spider-Man is open city concept. You can travel anywhere you like across the city, but you can't cross the bridge to go over to New Jersey or anywhere like that. The game actually stops you. You can't go forward. You try to go on a car, it will knock you off the car essentially. Or you start to get fatigued. The point is, open world has different concepts, even within the open world genre of games. We have smart sandboxes, smart cities, smart worlds. And going back to Red Dead Redemption 2, the concept, and I'm gonna continue to switch between Red Dead and Spider-Man for this example. Spider-Man, you can actually start off, and at some point you unlock the ability to fast travel, either to your home, to the lab, or across different places on the map using the subway system, which is great because, if you really want to get somewhere across, if you're at the very top of the map and you want to get down to the bottom of the map within 5 minutes, the only way to do that is if you use the subway. Otherwise, it's going to take you about 10 minutes to 15 minutes just to get down there. And that's a lot of time just wasting web swinging away, unless that's your thing. In Red Dead Redemption 2, there is no real fast travel other than from your camp to select certain locations, which typically are towns. Once you're in a town, you pretty much got to run back either on your horse or on your foot back to your camp if you want to get back to camp, or anywhere else. There is no fast travel other than that. And that's odd in a game like this. Quite literally, it's come to the point where I was playing with Chris and Dwan, two of my co-hosts, since the game launched. I started off last week Friday, week before last Friday, playing it on stream with everybody, and I'll probably do it again this Friday. But the point that I'm getting at is, while Chris was enjoying the game and its story and actually going through things, Dwan, and admittedly myself to a certain point, we're getting tired of having to continuously run around just to move between places that will take you 15 minutes just to get to. There's no cutscenes. There's no, just to do a mission that is quite literally 15 minutes worth of riding on a horse away, and you're riding with someone else, like an NPC, and it takes you 15 minutes just to get to the point where you actually do the mission. That's unnecessary. I mean, I get the point that you want to do open world. Sure. Great. But at the same point, the game also has cutscenes where they take you forward or take you back to camp. And I wish there were more that took me back to camp than just left me there like 30 minutes away from, camp just because we decided to ride all over the flipping place. But therein comes the problem with open world. Because it's so vast and expansive, you can quite literally get lost as well. And unless you know how to read maps and actually know how to cut across planes and stuff like that, it can become an issue. Not only that, when you get to side missions, sometimes they're not so easily clear cut. And because you're able to travel everywhere, that also becomes yet another issue, because then you find these side missions that are happening, you do them, you spend time doing that, and it takes you forever to actually finish the game. Then you have games like, how should I put it? World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is always continuously changing. They're adding new regions almost every expansion. So the world is never really changing. Quite literally, 2 expansions ago, they had people go into space. And before, well, I shouldn't even say, yeah, they had people go into space, travel through a dimension rift to another planet, which isn't exactly unique. They've done it before as well. But at the same point, how much is open world actually open world? At which point does open world become too much? At which point does being closed world actually become a benefit? And I actually do think that closed world concepts sometimes do have a fundamental upper leg on open world, because the games are clear cut. Thanks for the like, Cedric. But like I said, the closed world concepts are clear cut. You follow a set story, you follow a set map, and you just do the missions. You fight these people, you help these people, you do these things, and it pushes you along in the story. And that's great. Hey, Elko, welcome to the stream. How you doing today, man? But like I'm saying, let's use Soul Calibur 6 as an example for this. But literally, it comes to the point where I can easily go inside there, open up the game, and I know this is a fighting game. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to progress the storyline so I can actually unlock some characters, maybe, or, just beat the story. Which seems to be quite tiered, but it's still set. You beat this person, you get a little bit of story. You beat this person, you get a little bit more. That's how it progresses. And you have an end. You don't get sidetracked with other stuff unless you're going into a different mode. And that's your prerogative. That's fine. Then you've got Spider-Man, where quite literally, as you're trying to reach your destination for a mission, some thugs are mugging some store or robbing some place and stuff like that. And so you now have to take the time. Either you have, don't do anything and you just keep going towards your mission, or you take the time and actually stop them so that, that part of the story gets finished off faster, so you don't have to deal with these thugs anymore. So it gets time consuming, but then sometimes that's the point. Sometimes you just want to get away, and closed end games and open end games have a little differentiation with that. Alka is saying, I'm doing really well, thankfully, just enjoying my day of voting and such. Hope things are going well on your... Things are going well on this end, Alka. I was not able to vote because I'm in the Bahamas, and it's a little harder for me to vote here. But I'm glad you went out. For those who did go out and vote, awesome. I say kudos. I hope you voted well, and you didn't take any particular bias towards anything, and you voted the way you wanted to vote. So I'm not gonna get political with it. I'm just gonna leave it right there. That said, Alka, what's your thoughts on the whole open world versus closed world concept? Yeah, some people did get free stickers. I know some guy on Twitter is actually drawing like the little sticker things for people if they voted somewhere. Like Google it. There's already a news article about it. But getting back onto the topic as well. Then you have Red Dead, which takes it a step further. You're riding somewhere and a stranger comes along. Hey, welcome to the stream, Best Guild. If I remember correctly, you are... I know I've seen you on the stream before. You don't have anything... You don't have anything on your stuff, but... Welcome back. I know I've seen you before, so I'm just going to say welcome back. We just got some cheers, folks, from Alka. Alka shared 100 biddies. Thank you for that, dude. And yeah, I know it's an open-ended question. That's why I asked it that way. Why do you prefer open over closed though, Alka? Like, and Best Guild, you know, you can answer this too. Open world versus closed world games. Which one do you prefer and why? Me personally, I like open world simply because, and I'm getting to this with the Red Dead part as well. I like the fact that I can be traveling somewhere, and they call them strangers in the game, will shout out, or essentially there's some little mini event that's happening. Either someone needs help, some events happening, or someone, like what happened to me last night, someone called me over, said they needed help. I was about to let them get onto the back of my horse, and then they tried to steal my horse from me. So they actually yanked me off of my horse, started riding away. That didn't end well for them, but it's little random things like that that can happen that add a little element to the game that I wasn't expecting and bring stories to the game. Like, I've quite literally seen a portion of the game that neither Chris nor Dwan have ever seen before, and that was a cross. There, okay, admittedly in Red Dead Redemption 2, there are little mini events that sometimes happen randomly in secret locations, and some of them involve the KKK. The most seen one that I've seen is one that's happening inside the woods where they light the cross on fire and then end up getting burnt alive and dying. But what I found was them trying to lift a cross up, seemingly to get it ready to do something very similar, only for it to fall on them and kill them, which no one else has seemingly seen. Like, I haven't seen anyone else with that as of yet. So that's a thing. You can quite literally find things that no one else has seen inside these worlds if you go looking far enough. Anyway, so yeah, essentially that's what happens. And it was weird. Like, oh, Alka, I had said, Alka's asking that said that he missed my follow-up question. My question was, you prefer open to closed world. Why is that? Why do you prefer open world? But yeah, that was weird, just simply for the fact that the stream was still going, even on Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that. So I don't know what happened to Twitch. But okay, Bess, why do you prefer open world? Like, that's what I want to know as well. Open world seems to be the preferred choice for a lot of people. Because it's random AF. As F. Okay. And Alka's saying because I enjoy the fact that it's not like ... And I'm pretty sure he's going to come back with a response. Hey, thank you, Mikey Brown, for following. It's not like a fixed railing experience. You know, that makes sense. And that's what I like as well with games like Red Dead. Exactly. It's not where you have to follow a trail of quests and do it in a particular order. But I mean, admittedly, sometimes that's a good thing, especially when things are. Yes, exactly. You make it your own game, Alka. But admittedly, sometimes having it as your own game, like I mentioned earlier, it can derail you. Like Dwan, for example, did not know that in Red Dead, and Dwan's probably gonna hit me for this, that the white quests were side missions and the yellow ones were main story ones. So she spent a lot of time doing side stuff that she could have done sometime else. And admittedly, that's Red Dead's fault, not so much the open world concept. Because they don't really have a really good tutorial other than the one you have to buy. But bypassing that, the fact that it still is side stuff that happens with these strangers and cougars coming out of the random blue and attacking you, or deers and goats ramming you off a cliff. Like, it's unexpected death, essentially. Aw, thank you, Mikey Brown, for the heart and pizza. I love my pizza and I love my hugs. Right back at you, dude. Alka's saying that when it comes down, that's where it comes down to execution of open world environment. You can do it right and you can do it wrong. And Bess is saying, also in open world games, there's stuff to do even after finishing the main story. And that's true. These same side missions and like random stuff that happens and deaths that come from raging like goats that want to knock you off of cliffs, or other random stuff that the game just wants to screw you over, then these things can still happen even outside of you finishing off the story. It is up to you. Sometimes you can get derailed based on how distracted you are. And admittedly, sometimes these events, once you've triggered the being nearby them, they're one time. Like, so if you ignore them, that can be something that can haunt you. For example, there was a lady that her horse died, and I was trying to give her a ride back to town. I messed up, took too long to like bring my horse over, and she started walking back with her limp because the horse landed on her foot. And I my relationship with that NPC, like, she doesn't like me whenever I see her in town anymore because I didn't help her out. And then there are things like there'll be people who escape from jail, and they'll be like, hey, shoot these chains off of me so I can like move about better. And then they'll give you tips about which houses to hit and get money from and stuff like that. But if you don't do that, that's pretty much a chance to get money gone for the rest of the game, because they're not going to come back. They're not going to continuously show up. They're one-time events. Let's see what's happening inside the chat. Alka's saying, also in terms of being derailed, I don't think you can be derailed if there's no railing to follow. Fair point. The Best Guild is saying, speaking in terms of open world, wrong. Will Ubisoft ever make an open world game where you don't have to climb a tower over and over to unlock the map? No. Honestly, I don't know what Ubisoft is doing with that kind of stuff. I will admit, Assassin's Creed is a wonderful open world game that I think they've done right and they've mastered it within the different portfolios that they've done with similar games like Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed, by the way, does follow a set formula that other Ubisoft games follow. And because people saw how Assassin's Creed did in popularity, a lot of people have followed the same kind of guidelines. Then again, you've got places like Red Dead and Spider-Man that take things a little differently, or like Breath of the Wild as well, that take things vastly differently and still give you that open world concept. So whether Ubisoft will do it, I actually don't think so. I think they're going to stick with this Assassin's Creed kind of open world concept for at least for another 2 or 3 years. I think by then Assassin's Creed will probably start to go down in people's eyes. It's already been going down depending on the version. I believe Odyssey is one of the more popular ones that's come out overall. More so than... I can't believe I actually forgot. Even though I have it. Crap. Anyway, yeah. The fact that I can't remember it is already bad enough. Origins. Thank you. Thank you. That is it. It was Origins. And, you know, I enjoyed Origins to a degree, but at certain points it gets monotonous. And that's one of the things as well with open world. If you're able to freely roam, they typically allow things to respawn as well. And if I clear out somewhere that's like my enemy fort hold, I don't want to see that come back. I just want that to be gone. In a closed world game, I take out someone, they're gone. I don't have to worry about them like that anymore. Alka, if you ever need another guest on the show, by the way, just let me know a few days in advance and I'd love to join you that one day. Poof, they're gone forever. I'm straight. Alka, I'll take you up on that. You know, I would... Sure, I mean, if you want to come on the show, just let me know which one of the shows you want to be on, Esports Wrap or MOAR Tech, and we can do this. Have you on as a guest. Not a problem at all. It'd actually be fun. But, yeah. The whole open world concept. Here's the thing. And I'm going to quote this right now. In 2017, the open world design of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has been described by critics as being revolutionary, and by developers as a paradigm shift to open world design. In contrast to the more structured approach of most open world games, Breath of the Wild features a large and fully interactive world that is generally unstructured and rewards the exploration and manipulation of its world. Inspired by the original 1986 Legend of Zelda, the open world Breath of the Wild integrates multiplicative gameplay where objects react to the player's actions and the objects themselves also influence one another. Along with the physics engine, the game's open world also integrates a chemistry engine which governs the physical properties of certain objects and how they relate to each other, rewarding experimentation. Nintendo calls it, well, this particular design, open air. And I think this is where most open world games are going to start taking a look. You can kind of see it with Red Dead. Where, you know, actions happen, you do something, it can trigger something else. But Red Dead still has its bugs. Like, I literally found one the other night where a mountain lion that, you know, was supposed to be fought in the dark, I went into the light, came back, and it's just standing there, and I was able to aim and shoot it and kill it. But things like that, it should have followed me out there, you know, real world, open world, where everything happens. Let's look at Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That thing would have chased me. And Red Dead took another kill out of Breath of the Wild as well when it comes to snow-capped peaks. When I get too cold, I either need to warm up next to a fire or eat something spicy, and then that boosts up my health, and I don't really, well, boost up my warmth. Red Dead has something similar. And so the fact that you're seeing these comparisons between what critics in 2017 hailed as the top tier open world concept, and it's starting to make its way into other games by other developers, that also means that open world, the concept, is still evolving. Whereas closed world, unfortunately, it's pretty much a closed concept. Some can argue Spider-Man is closed. I say it's open city because it's non-linear. You can do things. You can do side missions as you please. And so to me it's open city. But closed worlds, you, much like what Alka was saying, much like what Bess was saying, you know, these things have set guides. You have to follow them. You can't stray. You can maybe go back and do something, but you can't jump ahead and do something else unless you're bugging out the game. And you know, that's not always a good thing. I mean, let's use God of War as an example as well. One of the best games probably out of this year, and it's probably one of the contenders for Game of the Year, to be quite honest. But God of War, you can quite literally travel. It's not fully open world, but it's open world enough where you can travel around and fight things as you want. Sure, there's a storyline that you still have to follow and whatnot, but once you get to certain points, you can travel around. So it's kind of like a hybrid, in my opinion. It's closed world, and that you have to follow a story, but open world that you can still move around and do other stuff after a certain point. Actually, I would more lean that God of War is closed world. What do you guys think? Yeah. Alka saying his brother's a huge fan of God of War. And he's curious as to why I'd call it closed world. Well, and Bess is saying that now, Bess, are you saying that it's closed world or it's like a hybrid of both? And Alka, the reason why I'm saying it's more like a hybrid but closer to close is that you. Thank you for following. I'm bad like you. Welcome to the cookie pack. But the reason why I call it like that, Alka, is, well, let's actually start off. Okay, so we have another person saying it's closed world. You start off the game and you pretty much have to follow a set guide. It's a little, there's wiggle room, but it's not exactly free space. So that's why I say it's after a certain point. Let's see. F plus L is no, I don't. I'm sorry, dude. I don't. Can you lie to me what F plus L is? But yeah, so what I'm saying is God of War starts off with you starting out of very little wiggle room. It's only at the later parts of the game where you can travel around to different places that it's more, you know, you can move around. But even then, once you get there, you still have to follow set guides. You can't move around the world and do whatever you want, however you want. And what's my opinion on Horizon Zero Dawn? I would say Vault X Gravy. How do you kidnap children? Wow, Alka. Alka says very carefully. I am not condoning the I do not condone the kidnapping of children. If I had to answer that though, that would be my answer. Like, I don't know. I can't really answer that one. Wow, in a van. Okay, so you're okay. So Best Guild is the person that's going around in a white van saying, "Hey kids, you want some candies or see some puppies?" Gotcha. But to answer the question about Horizon Dawn, I see that one almost like open world. It leans more towards the open world experience. Your van is pink. Okay, you and your hot pink van. Okay. More power to you, man. I'm not gonna shame you in your pink van. Whatever gets you, whatever is your thing, man. But yeah, I see Horizon Dawn more so as open world in a sense. But it's very similar in a sense also to Monster Hunter, if that makes any sense, or even like Destiny 2. Like you can roam about the place, and it's still a stage, in my opinion. So in that regards, it's okay. So use this as a comparison. Destiny 2 has worlds that you can pretty much go on, and you can move about certain maps on that world. You can't travel the entire world because they just simply haven't developed it. But for the parts that they have developed, oh, sorry about that. They have maps, and so you can travel within the map. However you please, so on and so forth. You can even fast travel in between. Monster Hunter World is one island with different stages. So you've got a jungle, you've got a swamp, you've got a desert, you've got a volcano area, and like all these different areas have, like, it can take you about 10 to 15 minutes to travel from one side of it to the next if you're running. But to move between them, it's not seamless. You would have to actually like catch a balloon there, or run, or some other mode of transport that does a cutscene and moves you over to that stage. And part of open world, the real open world, is that seamless transition that you don't really have a loading screen. Things just happen naturally. And that's where things like Spider-Man come in, and that's why Spider-Man's more like an open city kind of concept, because things just happen without you actually having to load them. It just happens. Red Dead is very similar. Pretty much the only stuff it loads is cutscenes, and then like loading up the side, well, the main mission for you after that or whatnot. Some people, Alka, do consider open world meaning no loading screens. So looking at Wikipedia, they say that open world is a virtual world in which the player can explore and approach objectives freely, as opposed to a world with more linear gameplay. Games like Grand Theft Auto have set this as a standard. Games with open or free roaming worlds typically lack the invisible walls or loading screens common to linear level designs. Generally, open world games still enforce many restrictions in the game environment because either of the absolute technical limitations, in-game limitations imposed. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my voice today. Or in-game limitations imposed by a game's linearity. Examples of high level of autonomy in computer games can be found in massive multiplayer games like WoW, or single-player games adhering to the open-world concept such as the Fallout series. Wow, I did not... Are you saying I smoked weed, Alka? Like, it has nothing to do with smoking at all. No. It has nothing to do with that. I'm not getting into the weed debate, guys. That stuff is illegal here in the Bahamas, and unless you are a medical patient, and I'm just not gonna get into that. But yeah, back to Horizon Dawn Zero. Thank you, Elko. I actually have not played it, but I've seen my friend and my co-host Chris play it. He was going on and on and on about that game when it first came out. And that's why I say it leans more towards open world than anything else. I don't believe it's 100% open world, but it's very close to it. And it leans to me more towards like that Destiny 2 and Monster Hunter World vibe, where you can explore for a lot, but you still need to transition into stuff. I could be wrong, but that's what I saw. I mean, do let me know if it's different. He says for Horizon doesn't have loading screens or transitions. Horizon is one game with a bunch of baby open worlds. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like, it's, in my mind, it's closer to like what Monster Hunter World does. Yes, they have the transitions where you have to move between like camp and another place, or from another place and move back to camp. But it's more open world than that. But it has those same kind of little areas that you get to, if that makes sense. That's why I say it leans to me more towards the open world concept than anything else. And more so than those games, but it reminds me of them. If you were to compare that to something like Breath of the Wild, though, I mean, Horizon Dawn, I get the feeling that it's not quite there. But then again, that's top tier, and Horizon Dawn is top tier in its own right as well, especially when it comes to graphics and gameplay. But what I mean by top tier is the actual open world environment, where you just run and run, and you pretty much never hit anything unless you hit some mountain that you can climb, but literally climb either up or down. And if you go down too much, well, you're probably gonna die. Go up too high, you're probably going to run out of stamina, fall to your death, and then die, or get to the top and it probably is going to end up being cold, and so you may die if you get too cold. But I mean, them's the breaks. They're the breaks. And open world has a really nice feel to it. Like, I'm don't get me wrong, guys, it does. Aside from getting distracted by just being open world and being able to do any and everything, the fact that you can spend time and just go fishing, that you can go hunting, that you don't necessarily need to fight anybody unless you're really waiting for it, unless they try to sneak up on you with it. Those are really nice factors into it. And the whole thing behind open world, to me, it's there to take you away from the experience that you were having in the real world. Open world is supposed to be your getaway. It's supposed to be your other world, if that makes sense. Closed world games, on the other hand, they're good to waste time. They're good to get better at stuff, especially if you do tournaments and stuff like that. You can spend time working on that, bettering yourself, bettering your precision, your accuracy, your response time. Sure, but those are if you're a professional or you're aiming to go pro. If you're just a random Joe Blow, well, I mean, that's just how you get your stress out on one level. But if you really just want to take it to the next level, fishing, when you don't have a fishing rod, you don't even live by the sea or a lake or anything like that, that's perfect. Go hunting without actually the risk of getting attacked or hurt, that's perfect. It's the small things that allow you to do things you wouldn't otherwise be able to do that makes open world so appealing to a lot of other people. That's essentially the point that I'm trying to make here with it. Sure, there's the side missions. Sure, there's the random events. But 10 out of, I shouldn't say 10 out, but 7 out of 10 times, I would say people will just stop, enjoy the scenery, go fishing, go hunting. Sure, they may be driven by some ulterior motive like trophies, or to like get 100% game completion by like finding all the little things here and there. Open world, best says open world has the best glitches. Yeah, that is sometimes true. Red Dead, quite literally, there was someone who had a glitch where his bridge glitched out, so when he rode over it, he fell under the world and just like, fell to his death, even though he didn't actually die, which sucks. That would suck, especially if that happened in a mission, because then you can't save the game, but you can load back previously to that. So that kind of works out. There's also the difference, like open world MMOs versus open world single players. I would say it's best when the glitches happen on single player. I mean, look at the bug that's happening with Red Dead, where you can quite literally get 15,000 gold in a matter of a few minutes once you are at a certain place and doing a certain thing. If that was to happen in online play, I could see some people being bad. So, glitches, open world, it depends on exactly how it's happening. But who am I? That isn't to say that I didn't do that like 2 or 3 times. I did. I know of quite a lot of like money on me in game single player right now. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie at all. MMOs still exist in 2018, yes. What do you think GTA Online is? GTA 5 Online. That's an MMO. It's based off of a single player game, but it's an MMO. There's other people playing along with you. What do you think about Fortnite? Wow. Those are all MMOs. I mean, Overwatch. That's an MMO as well. They're not MMORPGs like World of Warcraft is, which is a role-playing game, which many people have like said have come to expect MMO to mean. MMO just stands for massive multiplayer online, which, you know, if you have another player with them, or you just have a world with a bunch of other people on it, you're playing an MMO. So, yeah, those are around. I mean, Super Smash Bros. Is going to be an MMO soon. With Super Smash Ultimate. Because it's going to have online play, you can fight against other people. That's an MMO. Soul Calibur 6 is an MMO because you can fight against other people. Well, actually, no. That one's... Actually, I take that back. That's not massive multiplayer. That's just MO, multiplayers online. I take that back. Games like WoW, Overwatch, stuff like that, those are massive multiplayers. Actually, no. I'm not sure anymore. Like, because there will be a lot of people playing Smash. There's almost, if you open up a room on Soul Calibur 6 to fight other people, you'll almost instantaneously get someone. What do you guys think? Are those type of games MMOs as well? Let me know. But for the most part, that pretty much wraps up this episode of Esports. Wait, okay. What type of games, Alka? Games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Soul Calibur 6, where they have the online portions where people can randomly join you. And best, I don't know, because Overwatch is an MMO, and that's a fighting game. That's a shooter. Yeah, Super Smash. Really, you don't consider Overwatch an MMO? Interesting. Interesting. Let's see. Overwatch MMO. Apparently, they Overwatch team originally considered making an MMORPG. Called Crossworlds. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Overwatch is more MOBA than anything. And I think that's where a lot of people have things confused. Because actually, yeah, you're right. I made this argument about a year ago where someone didn't see Overwatch as a MOBA. And I actually had to explain to them the fact that there are lanes. It essentially is just a first-person version of a laning game like a MOBA. So you're right. But yeah, we'll talk about this another day. For now though, that's this week's episode of Esports Wrap. Don't forget, if you missed any part of this episode, we're gonna have it up on YouTube and on our website, MOAR Cookies, MOAR Cookies.com. Feel free to head out to any of those places. If you've enjoyed this episode, feel free to click follow, like, subscribe, and if you have a chance, especially on YouTube, click that bell. That'll let you know whenever we're online. That'll let you know whenever we upload something new. So that'll always keep you up to date. Feel free to join our Discord to actually have continuing conversations. And yeah, Esports Wrap is typically on Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have another show on Thursdays called MOAR Tech that talks about technology at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. And until next time, guys, you take care. And thank you, Elko. I enjoy having you here with me. And thank you, everyone, actually, for who actually followed and actually commented. I very much appreciate you guys. So make sure you come back. Take care.